Hi, well I'm back again in full preparation mode in my garden for the Rotorua Festival of Gardens. And because it's a little bit uncertain whether we're going to get colour in the garden and the plants growing when I want them, I've been thinking, how am I going to put colour around where there may not be enough colour? So I have been working hard in the last little while to create colour using some spray cans. My first project was to put a focal point in my garden. I bought on second hand for just $40 a antique, well sort of antique, wrought iron chair. It's not really an outdoor chair, but here it is, and looking very grand. But it was really rusted, very rusted. And the thing about living here in Rotorua, we have sulphur in the air, and what sulphur does is to completely wreck anything that's metal. It'll rust it very quickly. Let me show you a few examples. Stylised palm for New Zealand, and I've had it up for maybe 2 years and the rust is just going crazy here. It looks like it's been outside for 10 years in any other place I've ever lived in, but no, it's rusty, it's metal, and so the lesson is avoid putting metal outside unless you've done some really good anti-rusting. So that's what I'm talking about next. Now, this is a shade umbrella and it's been attached to the deck so I don't have to keep tripping over the base. And a little while ago I looked at it with my builder and it was really rusted. Some of the bolts were not stainless steel. You can see where they've been, but he's been here when I haven't, and I can see that he's replaced them because he so hates his handiwork going to rack and ruin. So he's got new bolts have been put in, the awfully rusted ones, and that's only been maybe 18 months, 2 years for it to be really wrecked. Yes, okay, so you can expect anything outside eventually to rust, but this is rusting on hyper rust action here in Rotorua. You can see that this bolt is now rusted on, and the back one should rotate, but it doesn't because of the rust, which is really obvious on this side. See that? It's not going anywhere. And it's really badly rusted. I'm living in the middle of an area which is very close to thermal activity. The chair I purchased is also very rusted in places. It looked nice, but I know, but just what happens in my garden, that things will completely rust away if I don't take some anti-rust action, which is why I went to Bunnings and got some advice and got this grey primer, which I spray painted, and then I coated it with this epoxy enamel rust guard, which is quite a challenge because it takes 16 hours to dry before you can recoat, and you can only get one side and then perhaps the edge and then perhaps the other side coated at any one time. So it's taken me about 3 days to actually get around this whole thing and to rust guard it and put it in the garden. So why am I painting some pot plants orange? That is because I have these two beautiful patches of orange flowered daisies, and this one here and one there. And I have spring bulbs starting to look a bit old and tired now. I've got to pick out some of these daffodils which looked great a couple of weeks ago, but now they're just dead, looking really untidy. And with bulbs, of course, if you know about growing them, and I'm still learning, when they are dying down, you've got to leave the leaves. You shouldn't interfere with the leaves because that puts you in a good position for the bulbs for next year. So if you can leave the leaves to die down naturally is a really great idea, but it looks rubbishy. So my aim is to remove these pot plants but still keep this bright feeling of colour and orange down here. I'll fill them up with something that will be beautiful flowering, but at least if I know that I can have a bright orange coloured one in those two places, I'll at least have a splash of colour, even if the potted plants are not quite up to scratch for the 10th of November. Fingers crossed, and we'll see how it rolls. So you can see that I've had a lot of fun getting ready for the garden festival with the structures of the garden. And it's all about knowing what your environment is, knowing what your garden needs, or at least keeping walking around. Is this working? Is that working? Does it need a splash of colour? What else could I have that would actually capture people's imagination? So I hope that you managed to have a look around the garden festival if you can be here in New Zealand, or just check out the next few videos as I go through the motions of getting ready and other aspects of my garden festival preparation. See you in the next video.